Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden in Iberian DNA? The lands of Spain and Portugal were shaped by more ancient cultures than almost anywhere else in Europe, yet their genetic story remains surprisingly misunderstood. What if your ancestry traces back not just to Celts or Romans, but to lost civilizations like the Tartessians or mysterious Moorish dynasties? In this video, we explore the layered and complex heritage that makes Iberian DNA one of the most fascinating puzzles in human history. Before we start, I'm on a road to get 10,000 subscribers as a small channel. If you want to help me, please subscribe. Long before Iberia became the land of castles and cathedrals, it was a refuge for Europe's earliest humans. During the last ice age, much of northern Europe was frozen and uninhabitable, but the Iberian Peninsula remained a warm, life-sustaining haven. This created what geneticists call a refugium, a safe zone where hunter-gatherers survived for thousands of years. These people left behind tools, cave paintings like those at Altamira, and, most importantly, their DNA. Modern Iberians still carry a distinct genetic signature from these Paleolithic and Mesolithic ancestors. This ancestry includes Y-DNA haplogroups like I2 and mitochondrial haplogroups such as U5 and H1, which trace directly to Europe's earliest settlers. After the glaciers retreated, some of these Iberian survivors repopulated the rest of Europe, spreading genes that can still be found as far away as Scandinavia. If your ancestry ties back to Iberia, you may carry fragments of DNA from the very first modern humans to walk the continent. It's a reminder that before the Romans, Moors, or even Celts, Iberia was already an ancient stronghold of life and resilience. Around 6000 BC, a major transformation swept through the Iberian Peninsula: farming. This wasn't just a cultural shift, it was a genetic revolution. Early Neolithic farmers arrived by sea from the eastern Mediterranean, bringing with them domesticated crops, animals, pottery, and a new way of life. These migrants carried DNA from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and their arrival left a lasting mark on Iberian genetics. They didn't just replace the hunter-gatherers, they merged with them, blending ancient lineages to create a unique Iberian genetic profile. You can still find their legacy in mitochondrial haplogroups like K and N1A, as well as Y-DNA haplogroups like G2A, typical of early farmers. But Iberia's story was never isolated. Its long Mediterranean coastline meant constant contact with Sardinia, North Africa, and the Italian peninsula. This allowed waves of gene flow that most other parts of Europe didn't experience. So if your DNA shows Mediterranean links, or even distant North African markers, it could trace back to these seafaring farmers and their trading networks. In Iberia, farming didn't just change the land, it rewrote the genome of its people. The Bronze and Iron Ages brought new cultures and new genes into Iberia. One of the most iconic was the Celts, who settled primarily in the north and northwest, especially in Galicia and Asturias. These weren't the same Celts as those in Ireland or Scotland, but they shared cultural traits and some genetic lineages, especially R1b haplogroups, which remain common in modern Iberian males. But the genetic story gets even more fascinating along the coast. In the south, Phoenician traders from what is now Lebanon established colonies like Gadir, modern-day Cadiz. These maritime people didn't just trade, they intermarried and left behind a subtle but real Middle Eastern genetic signal in some modern Iberians. Then there's the mystery of Tartessos, a wealthy and sophisticated culture that flourished in southern Spain around 1000 BC. While little is known about their language or full origins, some researchers believe Tartessians may represent a unique fusion of native Iberian and Phoenician ancestry. So when you look at Iberian DNA from this era, you're not seeing one people, you're seeing a crossroads of Europe, Africa, and the Near East. It's diversity written in blood. When the Roman Empire expanded into Iberia around 218 BC, it brought roads, cities, Latin, and law, but also people. Soldiers, administrators, and settlers came from all corners of the empire: Italy, the Balkans, North Africa, the Eastern Mediterranean. These waves of newcomers contributed new genetic material that still lingers in Iberian DNA today. You might find mitochondrial haplogroups typical of Greek or North African origin, or Y-DNA lineages from Roman soldiers stationed far from home. But Rome was only part of the story. As the empire collapsed, the Visigoths, a Germanic tribe originally from Eastern Europe, swept in around the 5th century AD and ruled Spain for nearly 300 years. They established noble dynasties and left their own genetic imprint, particularly in regions like Castilla and Leon. While the Visigothic contribution to the overall gene pool was relatively small, certain northern European markers, like haplogroup 1-1, can be traced back to these Germanic rulers. The Roman and Visigothic eras didn't erase the old Iberian DNA but layered over it. So, if your ancestry comes from Spain or Portugal, you may carry echoes of emperors, legionnaires, and migrating tribes. In 711 AD, Muslim armies from North Africa crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and forever changed Iberia. The Moors, a mix of Berbers, Arabs, and converted Iberians, ruled large parts of Spain and Portugal for nearly 800 years. This wasn't just a political or religious transformation, it was a genetic one. Modern DNA studies show a measurable North African and Middle Eastern influence, especially in southern Spain and parts of Portugal. Y-DNA haplogroups like EM81, which is common in Berber populations, appear in Iberian men even today. Mitochondrial DNA also carries markers from North Africa, especially in regions like Andalusia and Extremadura. What makes this legacy fascinating is how deeply it blended into the population. Even after the Christian Reconquista, many Muslim and Jewish converts stayed in Iberia, their DNA quietly carried forward through generations. Some families today have no idea that their roots trace back to Al-Andalus, yet their genes tell a different story. The Moorish influence is not a footnote. It's a key chapter in the Iberian genetic epic, one that shaped the look, culture, and bloodline of millions. For over 1,000 years, Jewish communities flourished across Iberia until 1492, when the Catholic monarchs ordered their expulsion. But while synagogues were destroyed and traditions went underground, the DNA remained. The Sephardic Jews of Iberia left a lasting genetic imprint, especially in regions like Castile, Aragon, and Andalusia. Geneticists have identified distinct Sephardic Jewish markers in modern Spanish and Portuguese populations, often through mitochondrial DNA passed down from mothers. These lineages, like haplogroup K1A1B1A, hint at a deep and often hidden ancestry. Many families today unknowingly descend from conversos, Jews who converted to Christianity to avoid persecution but secretly maintained aspects of their heritage. Some even fled to the Americas, taking their genetic legacy with them. Studies show that 20% or more of modern Iberians may carry traces of Jewish ancestry, especially in the male Y-DNA lineages that reflect the survival of entire communities. If you're Iberian or Latino, your family tree might hold crypto-Jewish roots buried beneath centuries of silence. It's one of the most moving and mysterious layers of Iberian DNA, a story of exile, resilience, and identity written in your very cells. Iberia isn't a genetic monolith, it's a patchwork of ancient regions, each with its own distinct ancestry. In the north, especially in Galicia, Asturias, and the Basque country, DNA remains more isolated and ancient. The Basques are particularly unique. Their language, Euskara, is unrelated to any other in Europe, and their DNA reflects deep prehistoric roots. Many Basques carry Y-DNA haplogroup R1BM 269, a lineage dating back to the Bronze Age, but with genetic patterns distinct from their Iberian neighbours. In the south, especially in Andalusia and Extremadura, the DNA shows more North African and Sephardic influence, remnants of the Moorish and Jewish presence. Meanwhile, Catalonia and Valencia exhibit a Mediterranean signature, linking them more closely to France, Italy, and North Africa via ancient trade and migration routes. Even within small distances, genetic variation is striking. Coastal regions often show greater diversity from centuries of maritime trade, while mountainous inland areas preserve older, less mixed lineages. If your roots trace to a specific province, your DNA may reflect a unique combination of ancient hunter-gatherers, Neolithic farmers, imperial settlers, and forgotten kingdoms, stitched together into the rich quilt of Iberian identity. I'm on a road to get 10,000 subscribers as a small channel. If you want to help me, please subscribe. The DNA of Spain and Portugal is not just a story of conquests and kingdoms, It's a map of survival, movement, and identity. From Ice Age hunters to Muslim scholars, Roman soldiers to Sephardic poets, every gene carries a piece of the Iberian puzzle. It's a land where history didn't just happen, it fused into the very blood of its people. If you carry Iberian DNA, you carry stories that were nearly erased but never forgotten.